Hello class. Today we are going to talk about the last topic for our midterm period, which is all about the global media culture. Alright, so when talking about global media culture, let us first discuss what is culture. According to Webster Dictionary, culture is the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. It is also the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life shared by people in a place or time. So, hindi ba tayo ay may sariling kaugalian, may mga tradisyon tayo na sinusunod na bunga ng ating kasaysayan, ng ating mga paniniwala. Itong lahat na ito ay bahagi ng ating kultura. Ang ilan sa mga bahagi ng ating mga kultura ay katulad ng nabanggit ko. So ano ba yon, yung mga customs natin, tradition sa ating mga bansa. Ano pa kaya? Yung wika, relihiyon, mga beliefs natin, arts, literature, and the things which we value. Bahagi din ng kultura ay kung ano ang sistema ng ekonomiya sa ating bansa. So, since we were colonized by different countries, each of which has its own economic system. So, palipat-lipat tayo, nagkakaiba-iba ng economic system for each government system din. So, anchored kasi ang government system natin, which is also part of the culture along with the economic system. Ano pa kaya? So, bahagi din ng kultura ay ang forms of governments wherein kasama dun yung mga batas na ipinapatupad, yung mga policies na pinapatupad to make sure na yung isang bansa ay may law and order. So, madami itong elements ng culture, let alone sa ating mga bahay, di ba? When we look around our four corners of our home, tingin lang tayo sa ating bahay, sa ating sariling bahay, madami dyan na sumisimbolo sa ating kultura bilang isang Pilipino. So, meron tayong mga native products such as mga nigo, di ba? Mga nigo, mga paintings, mga furnitures na noon pa parang antique na siya na kinukonsider. And that's culture. So, may simbolo po ang kultura natin bilang na tayo ay isang Pilipino. So, again, culture symbolizes us being Filipinos. Alright, so we are now done defining culture. Now, what is media? The term media, which is the plural of medium, refers to the communication channels through which we disseminate news, music, movies, education, promotional messages, and other data. It also includes physical and online newspapers and magazines, television, radio, billboards, telephone, the internet, fax, and etc. It describes the various ways through which we communicate in the society. Because it refers to all means of communication, everything ranging from a telephone call to the evening news on television can be called a media. So again, mag-focus tayo sa media. Ibig sabihin ng media dito is the communication channel. Maaari nating sabihin na isa itong daluyan na kung saan dito dumadaan yung mga information natin na gusto nating iparating sa ibang tao. So, yung communication highlights dito, ang hina-highlight dito sa definition is that the communication channels through which we disseminate the information. Now, we've looked at culture and then we've also discussed media. Ano naman ngayon yung media culture? Alright, media culture has a lot of definitions, but I guess for our discussion for today, this definition would really summarize it, or ito yung pinakaangkop na definition natin for our topic today. So, media culture refers to the culture created under the influence of mass media. The concept of media culture infers its impact on society's information, consumption, and intellectual guidance. Media culture tend to be a major factor in the formation of mainstream culture since it affects society's opinions, values, tastes, attitudes, and informational availability. So that's according to Lifestyle Dictionary. So, ang sinasabi lang natin dito is that yung media ay mayroong influence kung paano ba natin tinitingnan ang maraming bagay dito sa ating society. Maaring ang media ang nag influence ng ating opinion. So, paano tayo mag-formulate ng ating sariling opinion, ng ating mga paniniwala tungkol sa ibang mga bagay at ating mga attitude. So, ang media ay nagiging bahagi din ng ating formation, pagbuo ng kung ano ba yung gusto natin, kung ano ba yung vina-value natin, kung ano ba yung mahalaga sa atin. And dahil kinukonsume natin ang information na ito through media, ay nag-evolve ito. So, nagkakaroon ng iba't ibang pananaw, especially kapag ito ay ibinangga natin sa globalization. Kasi dahil nga sa globalization, tayo bilang mga citizens of the world ay nakakapag-consume tayo ng mga information, hindi lang mula sa ating sariling bansa, sa local source natin, kundi sa international source din. And with the media, kasabay din dito ang globalization. Yun yung sunod na titingnan natin ngayon. We have defined culture, media, and media culture. Now, let's go to the globalization and media. Now, at this point, sa mga daily activities nyo na ginagawa nyo ngayon, ano ba sa tingin nyo yung mga bagay na dahil sa media ay nai-impluwensyahan kayo sa inyong pakikisalamuha sa inyong family, sa inyong pag-aaral, or pagtatrabaho na pwede nating ma-relate sa globalization? So, yun yung ilan sa titingnan natin dito sa next part ng ating discussion. Globalization and media. Ano nga ba ang role ng media? While in everyday language, globalization usually refers to economic and political integration on a world scale. It also has a crucial cultural dimension in which the media have a central role. When we started the contemporary world, when we were defining globalization, diba? We've mentioned about interconnectedness, the interdependence of nation states, of different countries to one another, and usually, yung mga definition ng globalization ay would focus on the economic side and the political integration, market integration, the international trade. Pero, sa pagtingin natin sa globalization ay meron din na mahalagang bahagi or parte ang kultura. Merong dimension, may bahagi ang kultura to which ang media ay may napakahalagang parte or bahagi. Meron din po siyang central role in globalization. In that sense, media globalization is about how most national media systems have become more internationalized, becoming more open to outside influences both in their content and in their ownership and control. That's according to Sinclair in 2015. So think about the media. When I say media at this point, so kanina we've defined media, but what I am pertaining here by the media systems ay yung titingnan natin dito sa ating bansa yung mga companies halimbawa na nagpo-produce ng balita. So, kasi they have been more internationalized. Hindi lang ang binabalita natin dito sa ating sariling bansa ay yung mga nangyayari lang dito locally or domestically. Meron ding through our news, we have a glimpse of what is really happening in terms of international stage of the events and affairs na nangyayari sa ibang bansa. Meron din tayo na media organizations na originally ay mula talaga sa Western countries, pero because of media systems, of becoming more internationalized media systems, meron na po silang local base dito sa Philippines. Anong example nito? The CNN, di ba? Hindi naman talaga siya dito sa Philippines nag-establish we also have our local base here. Kung titingnan talaga natin, yung international news organization ay talagang it has become more open to outside influences both in their content and new ownership and control ng mga kumpanyang ito. Dahil sa globalization, again, we've become more interconnected and we do not only consume the information that is produced in our country, but more so, yung mga pinoproduce sa ibang mga bansa. And later on, we will go to the specific example. So, we will delve into the specifics later. But first, let's go to the 5 time periods in the study of globalization and media. So this is articulated by Jack Lull in 2014 in his book about globalization and media. So ano ba yung 5 time periods in the study of globalization? We have the oral communication, the script, the printing press, the electronic media, and the digital media. Alright, let's discuss the first one. Oral communication. Of all forms of media, human speech is the oldest and most enduring. So, diba, sana all. Ibig sabihin, ever since, andyan na siya. Humans are allowed to cooperate and communicate through language. Languages as a means to develop the ability to communicate across culture are the lifeline of globalization. Language contributes to the formation of culture. Language is in essence the substance of culture. So pag ito ay ang napaka halagang bahagi ng kultura and ang sinasabi dito, this is a symbol of group belonging. What's next? Languages serve as important symbols of group belonging, enabling different groups of people to know what ethnic groups they belong to and what common heritages they share. Pag nagsasalita ka ng Filipino, for example, I can of course distinguish you, or the people can distinguish you as someone from Asia, as someone from Southeast Asia, and in particular, as someone from the Philippines. Without a language, people would lose their cultural identity. Okay? Kasi kung wala tayong lengguwahe, we would lose our cultural identity. Walang certain na pagkakakilanlan. So, mawawala yung pagkakakilanlan natin. So this is just a trivia according to Ethnologue. Ethnologue is a research arm ng mga languages. So currently, meron tayong 7,117 languages spoken in the whole world today, and roughly about 40% of the language are now endangered, often with less than 1,000 speakers remaining. So meanwhile, just 23 languages account for more than half of the world's population. So, ang tanong, namamatay ba yung language? Sige nga, isipin nyo nga, namamatay ba kaya yung language? Yes, namamatay siya. So, kailan siya namamatay? 'Di ba? Kapag wala nang nagsasalita nito, 'di ba? Of course. So, if for example, may jowa ka and then may wala na siyang time sa'yo or tumitingin na siya sa iba, of course, namamatay yung love, 'di ba? So, kapag wala nang nagsasalita sa language, namamatay na ito. Ang language kasi is very dynamic. So, ibig sabihin, nagbabago po yung forma nito. What's the concrete example for this? So, if you have studied English language, so, if not ngayon, kung hindi pa kayo nakakapag-aral ng the history of English language, siguro ay sa inyong mga upper years ay mapag-aaralan nyo to. So, if you have somehow studied the English language, 'di ba iba yung old English natin so kung ano yung meron tayo ngayon, 'di ba? Ibang-iba na siya. Merong mga words nung old English na obsolete na po siya, hindi na po siya ginagamit ngayon. So, through time ay nag-evolve ito. It is dynamic and that is oral communication. The second era is what we call the script. Writing is humankind's principal technology for collecting, manipulating, storing, retrieving, communicating, and disseminating information. Writing may have been invented independently 3 times in different parts of the world: in the Near East, the China, and Mesoamerica. Writing is a system of graphic marks representing the units of a specific language. Cuneiform script created in Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq, is the only writing system which can be traced to its earliest prehistoric origin. That's according to Besserat in 2014. So ano ba ang gamit or ano ang form of writing natin ngayon? Ano ba ang ginagamit na natin ngayon? So 'di ba, gumagamit tayo ng alphabet. So ano kaya yung mga early forms of writing naman natin? This is what we call a cuneiform script. Okay, this is what a cuneiform script looks like. It is written like wedges, 'di ba? So kung nakakain na kayo ng potato wedges, para siyang may mga hukay, para siyang may mga patterns, 'di ba? May kalot, kumbaga, may hukay. Through evolution, our ancestors decided to later on use the alphabet because it's more practical. Kasi imagine kung hanggang ngayon ay ito pa din yung ginagamit natin, yung cuneiform script, 'di ba? It's not practical, it's impractical. Through evolution, our ancestors decided to later on again use the alphabet. And this was made in clay, and yung cuneiform script ginagawa siya habang malambot pa po yung clay. And dito po inuukit yung mga wedges like na mga script na to. So, these patterns have its own meaning. So, mayroong mga katumbas na meaning po yung every pattern na nakikita niyo po sa screen. And, ang tanong, sa Pilipinas naman kaya, ever since ba ay alphabet na talaga ang ginagamit natin? And the answer is, of course, no. This is the Philippine scripts and origins. So, ano ba yung ginagamit na scripts noon sa iba't ibang bahagi ng ating bansa? So, these are just the examples. For the Pampanga, Kapampangan, they use Kulitan. For the Ilocandia, the Ilocanos, they use Cordita. For the Katagalugan, the Tagalogs, they use Baybayin. For the Bicolandia, the Bicolanos, we use Basahan. For the Mindoro, the Haninuo Mangyan, because dalawa po yung ginagamit sa Mindoro. For the Haninuo Mangyan, they use Haninuo. For the Mindoro Buhid Mangyan, they use Buhid. How about the Northern Palawan? So, yung mga taga Northern Palawan, they use Tagbanwa. For the Kabisayaan or the Visayan, they use Badlit. For the Greater Sulu, the Tausog, they use Hawi. And for the Greater Maguindanao or the Maguindanaon, they use Kirim. So, again, we are in our current system now because of our history. But as you can see, dahil ang Pilipinas po ay isang archipelago or magkakalayong mga territories or mga isla, iba-iba po yung ginagamit na scripts noon. So, ang ibig sabihin ay ang Pilipino po ay gumamit ng iba't ibang scripts noon. Alright, number three is printing press. The printing press is a device that allows for the mass production of uniform printed matter, mainly text in the form of books, pamphlets, and newspapers. It revolutionized society in China where it was created. So, ang mga Chinese po ang unang nag-imprenta. Sila po ang nakapag-imbento ng printing. So this is the Diamond Sutra from the Tang Dynasty, China, in 868 AD, which is in British Museum, which is widely seen as the earliest existing printed book. So noon pa lamang na 868 AD ay yung China nagkaroon na ng technology sa pagpiprint. So ito ay mahalaga dahil mas madali silang nakapag-produce ng mga babasahin tungkol sa religion because yung Chinese noon or even ngayon talagang they are very religious people. And ito pong Diamond Sutra ay tungkol po ito sa kanilang religion. Johannes Gutenberg further developed the printing press in the 15th century with his invention of the Gutenberg press. Dahil dito sa Gutenberg press model ni Johannes Gutenberg ay mas naging mura yung mga libro at iba pang sulatin at naitala yung experience at knowledge ng mundo. This, of course, revolutionized the modern day printing. Alright, so according to Eisenstein, according to the Sage Handbook of Globalization, these are the consequences of printing press. So, first, the printing press changed the very nature of knowledge. So, it changed the very nature of knowledge kasi kung noon ay through verbal lang nakakapag-communicate or naipapasa yung information, through this printing press, naitatago na yung naisulat mong information, yung mga experience, and naidi-distribute na po yung knowledge na naimprinta mo. Second one, print encouraged the challenge of political and religious authority because of its ability to circulate competing views. Printing press encouraged the literacy of the public and the growth of schools. So dahil sa printing press ay madaming na-produce na lathalain, sulatin, balita, at dahil doon ay na-challenge yung political and religious authority. So kung babalikan nyo yung history natin sa Philippines, yung mga isinulat po nila Rizal at iba pang mga bayani natin na nakapagsulat noon, it challenged the religious and political authorities noon, specifically yung mga Kastila. So nagkaroon tayo ng La Solidaridad, the No Limitangere, El Filibusterismo, at dahil dito, naipakalat po ito sa mga target ng mambabasa at napaigting nito ang damdamin ng mga Filipino na makibaka para sa ating kalayaan. Yun ang sinasabi dito. So, it challenged the religious and the political authorities because na-distribute na po ng mas wider range yung mga babasahin through, of course, the printing press. Isa pa, lands and culture were learned by people through travels. News around the world were brought through inexpensive and easily obtained magazines and daily newspapers. People learned about the world. Indeed, printing press helped foster globalization and the knowledge of globalization. So dahil po dito sa printing press, yung mga tao mas nag-open po yung horizon nila sa ibang mga mundo kasi noon they are just open domestically doon lang sa sarili nilang bansa, wala pa noong gaanong technology para magkaroon sila ng kaalaman kung ano ba ang itsura ng iba pang countries noon. So let's see kung ano yung example nito. So this is the manuscript of Antonio Pigafetta. So sino ba siya? Siya po yung transcriber or tagasulat po ni Ferdinand Magellan nung nag-voyage sila around the world. And ngayon, ang journals po ni Pigafetta ay ang window ng Pilipinas kung ano ba yung mga nakikita dito nung dumaong po sila dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi dinescribe po dito ni Antonio Pigafetta kung ano ba yung mga kasuotan ng mga Pilipino noon, ano ba yung lingwahe na kanyang narinig, at ano po ba yung mga um, itsura ng mga lugar or the island. So meron pong drawings din ng mapa yung manuscript ni Antonio Pigafetta. Again, that is all about the printing press. Kung paano niya binago ang ating world of ideas in relation to globalization. Alright, number 4 is electronic media. It refers to the broadcast or storage media that take advantage of electronic technology. So, 'di ba, pag sinabi natin na electronic technology, of course, we are pertaining to electricity, gumagamit ng kuryente. It includes the television, radio, internet, fax, CD-ROMs, DVD, and any other medium that requires electricity or digital encoding of information. So, ang pinakasikat po na electronic media ay ang television. So, ito yung evolution of television from the 1930s to 2010s. So, ang pinakamatandang TV na nakita ko dito ay ito pong 1960s na pagmamay-ari ng late grandfather ko. Ngayon ay kung titingnan natin yung mga television natin ngayon, iba na dito sa mga models na to. Meron na tayong bended na mga TV kung saan pwede mo siyang mabali-bali. At of course, yung quality niya ay high definition talaga yung pictures niya. So, what do you think? Ano kaya yung magiging future ng ating television? Sa future kaya ay magagamit pa kaya natin tong television? Because we'll never know kasi nga technology is evolving talaga. Baka in the future ay meron na tayong uh, two-way, like for example, maging obsolete na tong television kasi anyway, nakikita naman natin yung mga nakikita natin sa television through our phones, through our laptops, through our computers. So, yun ang malaking katanungan natin. In the future kaya, magagamit pa natin yung television natin? In the 20th century, the only available mass media in remote villages was the radio, while film was soon developed as an artistic medium for great cultural expression. The most powerful and pervasive mass media is television, as it brought the visual and oral power of film with the accessibility of radio. The introduction of television was a defining moment in globalization. That's according to Jack Lully in 2012. So kasi kahit nasa bahay ka, ay makikita mo kung ano yung nangyari sa ibang bansa. So, magkakaroon tayo ng idea, ganito pala yung pananamit nila, ganito pala yung kinakain nila at pamumuhay nila doon, ganito pala yung itsura ng bahay nila. Because of the television, nakakapag-travel tayo sa South Korea, sa Japan, Switzerland, Paris, and etc. to see what life do they have there kahit na hindi naman talaga tayo pumupunta doon in actual. So, it was a defining moment sa globalization, the interconnectedness ng ating mga tao sa mundo. So number 5 is digital media. Here comes your YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter, and Pinterest. Diba? Marami pang iba. This is the digital media. For digital media, the computer is considered the most important media influencing globalization. Computers give access to global and marketplace and transform cultural life. Our daily lives is revolutionized by digital media. People are able to adopt and adapt new practices like fashion, sports, music, food, and many others through access of information provided by computers. They also exchange ideas, establish relations, and linkages through the use of Skype, Google Chat, the Zoom, and other platforms. So, binago niya talaga ang ating personal, the cultural life, especially now, or noon na nagka-pandemic, 'di ba? You are listening noon sa lectures ng inyong mga instructors or teachers through Google Meet or Zoom na hindi naman natin naisip noon na imposible pala 'yon. Our homes became our schools, and because of that digital media, we were able to do that. So, paano kaya kung nagka-COVID tayo noon, 'di ba? Nagka-COVID pandemic, tapos wala tayong digital media. And ang inaasahan lang natin na form or modality of classes is through the face-to-face classes. So, paano kaya yon? Because of digital media, this was made possible. Nagpatuloy ang ating ways of life. 'Di ba? Kung wala yun, of course, matitigil yung ating pag-aaral kasi nga, face-to-face class lang. So, matitigil yung pag-aaral. Ilang years yon na nagka-pandemic tayo na hindi talaga tayo pwedeng lumabas. So, that is digital media. Again, we have 5 eras: the oral communication, script, printing press, electronic media, and digital media. Let's go to the last part of our lesson, which is popular music and globalization. So, let's think first. Sagutin nyo muna tong mga questions na to. So, what kind of music do you listen to? Who is your favorite music artist? What influenced you to like that kind of music? Do you have your musical heroes? Where are they from? What are their nationalities? So, think of those questions in your mind. So, ano kaya yung mga naging sagot nyo? Alright, so given that, let me share to you a piece of history based on a research. So, in the book of Irving called Colonial Counterpoint Music in Early Modern Manila. Sabi niya noon pa man daw, the Spanish era ay meron ng colonial music. One, the Spanish Imperial Project was arguably the first to connect things globally with the conquest of Manila in 1570. One can start to speak of musical globalization at this early date, as Irving suggests in a recent study of colonial counterpoint in the Philippines. So paano? In commenting on the speed with which uh, in which indigenous populations turned towards church counterpoint and in fact became noted for their musical skill far beyond the Philippines. Irving observes that pre-colonial indigenous practice, ibig sabihin nito ay bago pa dumating ang Espanyol, yung mga ninuno natin were already involved in multi-part singing and involved devotion to female deities. So, may pagsamba na po sa female deities. Ibig sabihin nito ay imahe ng isang babae na related sa kalikasan. So, kumbaga, meron na silang spiritually na sinasamba. Many were, in other words, ready to participate in their colonial transformations musically speaking at least. So kumbaga, bahagi na ang pagchachan, pagkakanta, doon sa kanilang pagsasamba sa kanilang female deities. So ngayon dahil doon, mas naging handa na po yung mga indigenous people dito sa Philippines ng pagdating ng kolonyalismo na local elites in which there was much intermarriage came to understand themselves as mixed and attribute value to their mixed cultural practices as mestizaje. They took particular pride in their church music. Yung mga mas mayayaman na Pilipino or yung mga maharlika ay nakakasal sa mga Spaniards. And usually, they are very religious na naging bahagi sila ng activities ng simbahan. So the Manilan Church thus led in development of a variety of new Marian repertoires, meaning many of which were exported via Mexico to Europe because of the galleon trade. Yung sinasabi lang dito ay yung mga kanta sa simbahan, yung devotion, the Marian repertoire, mga kanta po ito tungkol kay Mama Mary. Okay, so basically to summarize that, music participates in the reinforcing of boundaries of culture and identity. Popular music explains the complex dynamics of globalization not only because it is popular, but music is highly mediated, is deeply invested in meaning, and has proven to be an extremely mobile and resourceful capital. That's according to Gadbat in 2014. So talagang ang music at globalization ay na-impluwensyahan tayo. So bakit, 'di ba? Ang sabi dito, music is highly mediated. So meaning kapag nalulungkot ka, kapag broken-hearted ka, nakikinig ka sa mga sad songs. And through music, somehow you feel better. 'Di ba? If you are having a bad day, you listen to your songs, your favorite songs, and somehow nagiging okay yung pakiramdam nyo. Okay? So, tingnan na lang natin kung sino ba yung mga sumikat ng artist noon. Alright, so of course we have the Beatles. So a British boy band po, sila yung parang BTS ng panahon ng mga tatay natin or mga lolo at lola natin. So ito naman sa right ay ang tinatawag natin na Spice Girls, and they are also British. What else? In 1998 nabuo ang Westlife, at nung early 2000s, who would of course forget the F4 or the Flower 4? Hindi ko lang alam kung kilala nyo pa din sila hanggang ngayon. But noon kasi, nung early 2000s ay sobrang sikat nila dito sa Pilipinas. And even ngayon, sikat pa din naman sila. And ang isa pa is the Asereje song of Las Ketchup, which has a controversy aligned to it na ang kanta daw na ito ay kanta ng demonyo dahil sa wala pa tayong internet noon ay naniwala naman yung mga tao dito. And napakasikat nito ang kanta na to because every time na may intermission number talaga noon sa mga schools ay lagi po itong piniplay. So that's Asereje by The Last Ketchup. So that's it. That's our lesson for today. That is all about the global media culture. Thank you and have a nice day. I hope you have learned something.